Hey everybody, Craig Cottle from Nature Reliance School, guest instructor with dansdepot.com. Glad to be with you today. We have had a very advantageous night for what we're going to do today, which is it's rained all night, because one of the biggest questions we get asked is how to build a fire when your firewood's wet, particularly tinder. So what we're going to do on this video is show you how to gather materials even when everything out here is wet and make a fire. One of the benefits of this particular spot where I'm located is that you can see, I think you can see this tree up behind me here, and this tree you can see skylined up behind me right here. Those are what most people refer to as evergreen trees. More specifically, those are cedar trees. I'm going to take the camera up real close and show you why I want to point those out to you, because they're really important to fire building where most everything is damp. And so I'll show you why when I get there. Keep in mind that evergreen tree, or particularly cedar trees, are not something that normally grows in deep dark forest. They are what most foresters would refer to as edge habitat trees or pioneer species trees, because they grow in places where the ground's trying to hold itself together, at least in our neck of the woods here in Kentucky. So keep that in mind. It's very rare that you'll find one of a big tree or even a small one of these trees in real heavy forested canopy. There's several things about a cedar tree that make it beneficial to fire building in damp situations. And so one of those is that typically what you're going to find is what looks like hairy bark falling off the tree. Something like this right here that I'm pulling off. And I'll bring this close to the camera too. And this stuff is going to be readily made into a tinder bundle. This is one aspect of this tree that I want to point out to you. So that's what this bark looks like right here. It'll have a lot of hairs on it, and what makes it real easy to use is that I can break this up, and you see me do this in making a tinder bundle video, but I can then break this up and I have real fine material. Now this material, again, is damp, but I'm going to show you how well it still works. The other part of this tree that makes it real beneficial are these branches that are dead on the bottom. And what's real beneficial with these, and quite frankly, I'm not real technically astute on what's going on here, but there's something to do with, there's some flammable properties of this cedar, and this gives me reason to read up on this and find out myself. But these are going to be a real flammable tree, more so than these deciduous trees that are around me. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to bring these close to the camera and show you what I would do with these branches if I'm going to make a fire. So what I have is one of the cedar branches, and I'm going to show you how to do this as one, but I'm going to do several of these off camera. But basically what I've got here is one of those cedar branches, and what's really surprising to most people is that most of the moisture that is on this tree is going to be just on the outer layers of the bark of this particular branch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get several of these branches just with my knife, and I'm going to scrape all that dampness off, and you can feel it. Here's how you can tell, and this is something that takes practice, is obviously you can feel it to the touch here, but one of the things that I often do is I take material and I lay it against my nose, and you can feel the dampness in that as well. And then once you scrape it, you'll feel the difference, that you can feel most of that moisture is gone. The way it feels to me, you need to do this on your own so you can see what it feels like to you, but it feels almost cool to the touch, and you can feel the difference when something that is moist versus something that's not moist. So what I'm going to do is get several again, I'm going to get several of these branches, and all I'm doing to scrape is I'm not cutting like I'm whittling. That's different. All I'm doing is taking my knife and I'm laying it against the edge at a 90 degrees and just scraping so that I can get all that material off. I don't want to whittle and cut. I want to just scrape. And last but not least, what I'm going to do is I am going to, just because I just saw it, I am going to climb up that, not necessarily climb, but get up there. You'll look, there's a dead cedar tree that has a tip broken off of it, the top of it. And that is all that is right in front of you. All those tiny little branches right there on this broken off cedar tree are going to be fantastic small woody material to add to right after I get my tinder bundle lit. I'm going to add that stuff right on, because that again is another cedar tree and it has the same properties that make it flammable. So I'm taking a long shot of this tree right here, and then I'm going to get it in close so I can show you this more specifically. But this is a gold mine of a find for getting dry material. What we've got here are 2 cedar trees that have fallen down, and you've got material that's hanging off of it that basically did not get rained on at all. And so I'm going to get you in real close, and I'm going to point this out so you can see. So what we have, you can tell this side of the tree is real dark, and this almost looks white or brighter. That is stuff that right there, after a night of rain, has no moisture on it. So what I'm going to do, because again this is a gold mine for making a tinder bundle, is I'm going to get as much of this as I can. And there's another tree right there, and there's another tree just like it. So I'm going to go around and get, you know, I've probably got a baseball size hunk of nothing but dry, super dry material. The other thing that I want to point out is that as I'm collecting my materials, I'm just storing them on my pack and then going out and getting more. That way I never put anything down on the ground, because there's going to be moisture, moisture on the ground, and I want to keep it dry. Man, you would think after raining all night it'd be hard to build a fire, but there's just a gold mine of stuff around here. This is another cedar tree that was dead back behind me, and so there was a big hunk of it was peeling off, so I just broke that right off. Now what I want to point out to you, the obvious, which is moisture has gathered right here, but the piece down here, because the moisture was gathered here, this piece right here is dry. This is the part that was actually attached to the dead tree. So I broke this off, and so what I'm going to use is this big flat piece here as my base. If you don't know what I mean by base, man, I'm pretty sure I got a video on that out there too. But basically, I don't want to build my fire down on the ground. I want to build a base out of dry material to keep it off of the ground so it doesn't get moist as it's trying to work and build itself up. Okay, so I'm going to build my base out of this very dry, and again, this is cedar material too, so it'll eventually catch fire and get going itself. So this is the tip of that tree that I showed you earlier that was broken off. What's so beneficial of this, and I'm going to get this real close to camera too, but this had broken off and had fallen down underneath the rest of the cedar tree that was still alive. And so the cedar branches protected this from getting too wet. And it's still got some moisture to it. But what is so cool about this is that you'll see all this. This is actually off a, look at it now, this is spruce tree. But spruce and cedar look real similar. But you'll see all these spruce leaflets. And this is what they look like up close. These are incredibly dry. And so I'm going to throw those in my tinder bundle. And this lights up really well, even with a ferro rod, just sparks. So what I'm going to do is, I think I got enough material to go with the fire now. Sorry, I'll back off. Whew. So now I think I got the material to get this thing going. And we're going to set it up and see what we can do with the ferro rod. If we don't get the ferro rod to work, then we'll use the lighter. Okay, so there you go.